Welcome to TrekTrav. I'm Trav. This is your review for Season 4, Episode 1 of Lower Decks, Twovix. Nice pun. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into the review. The episode sets up that they're on a secret mission, and then we quickly discover that they're escorting Voyager, which has now become a museum ship back to Earth to be put on display in San Francisco Bay. What we get is an introduction of lots of Voyager references, like a crazy amount of Voyager references, including the flower which created Twovix, which happens in this episode. A petal falls on the transporter, and we get a combination of the doctor and the engineer, and they become Phillips or I don't know, a complicated name. And what ensues is them sort of, they go, oh, well, Voyager dealt with this, so we can deal with this. And then they outright discover Janeway killed Twovix, and they point out he begged for his life, which is a really, really fun sort of, that was really evil. And like even Shax goes, well, Janeway didn't mix her thing. Like he points out that Janeway was a hard ass, and I think people have been discussing this for years. It's a complicated thing. Twovix, not really. She murdered him. If you disagree, write it in the comments. And we get sort of, they go, oh my god, hopefully he doesn't read this. We find out he reads this. He decides to start combining other people. So the captain and the psychologist he always talks about, I think it's Fruit. They're combined, and Shax, and so what we have is like a giant Twovix situation, and they don't know whether to divide or keep them together. It's a complicated story. On the Voyager itself, we get Boimler looking through the ship. He discovers a macro virus, of which we've seen in Voyager. We get references to like the salamander babies of Tom and Janeway. We get a lot of Voyager references. So the macrovirus goes on board, then it goes and hides in the Borg alcove, gets nanoprobes, then introduces holograms, references to Fear from Fear and Chaotica, and Janeway's love interest from the holodeck program Fairhaven, which is, it's just jam-packed filled with little references to the entirety of Voyager. So Boimler, they all get captured, slimed up against walls by these macro viruses. The holograms take over and duplicate. There's a funny moment where Janeway's, I can't remember his name, O'Donnell or whatever it was, is having a kiss with Mariner, and Mariner's sort of into it. It's a really funny sort of constantly irreverent humor. So Voyager is on its way to Earth. The macrovirus gets a Borg nanoprobes, which is the holograms. The holograms take over the ship. They don't know how to stop it. They know they're all about to be killed because they've set a course for a Borg cube. And then Rutherford comes up with a brilliant idea of using the cheese that Neelix used in an episode to destroy the biogel packs from an early Season 1 episode of Voyager, I believe. So there's constant references, and Rutherford stops it. There's a nice little moment where Mariner is stuck up against the wall, and Boimler's like, I don't know whether I want to get promoted. He confesses that he's been told he will get promoted if this goes well. And Mariner goes, well, I put you forward for it, and I really think you would do this. And there's a build in their relationship, so they're more friends now than they were 2 seasons ago when he went to the Titans. She doesn't feel as betrayed. She put him forward. Boimler is literally, he's sort of taken aback, but at the same time he's so grateful for her being his friend. And then she goes, look, go save the ship, you know what you're doing. And then of course he goes to sell cartography, and he releases Rutherford, and they both decide to save the ship with the cheese thing. And it's a really interesting like little snippet of the growth the characters have had over the 4 seasons, and the fact that they're proper friends now. They're not just larking about and forced to work together. They're proper friends with proper motivations. We get the promotion ceremony at the end. Mariner gets surprised that she has been promoted. because she didn't do anything, and Jerry O'Connell's commander, I don't know why I remember the actors and not the characters, but the commander basically goes, I saw what you did talking to Boimler, you motivated him, da-da-da. It's a great build on all of these characters. I don't feel like the show was about ready to move forward. Season 3 didn't feel as funny to me, so hopefully this one builds up a bit more. Otherwise, the moments in this episode, there was a little bit of character growth, but it was just a big referencing. The Twovix situation is solved literally by they accidentally transport all of those people in the transporter, they get turned into a big blob, and they go, oh, well, it's a big blob now, and they can work out how to separate them with the personality traits. I don't quite get that, but it's Lower Decks. But yeah, it was a fun episode, a lot of nostalgia, a lot of funny little inside jokes. If you're a random audience member, you're not going to get half the inside jokes. Anyway, what did you think about the episode? Write it in the comments. And make sure to come back on Thursday for more Lower Decks reviews. And for the second episode of Lower Decks, the review will be up shortly after this one. Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4, Episode 2. I have no bones, yet I must flee. This is your review. There are spoilers ahead, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into it. So this episode basically opens up with Shax and Jerry O'Connell's commander, though I can't remember today, talking about Mariner and basically going, he's not going to fall for her shenanigans. Mariner overhears. The basic gist of the story is a three-pronged story. So Boimler has got promoted to new quarters. He keeps going to different quarters. The first one is too near the Bazaar Collector, so it's bright red. So he tries to get moved to another load of quarters, and the second quarters is between two holodecks, so we can hear everything going on, weird sexual stuff, and the captain doing it like a presidential speech. So he decides that's not for him either. Then Commander Ransom and Mariner and an ensign called Gary going down to a museum to rescue some humans who've got caught in a menagerie, or a menage as they call it. And they point out that there's a lot of menageries in Star Trek. And they meet a banana-looking guy, and they're looking around at the thing. It's all casual. Mariner, of course, doesn't understand. Mariner thinks that Commander Ransom wants to sabotage her promotion. So she's just turned up in sports gear, and she's calling him Jack, and she's sort of just casually, just being generally a pain, as Mariner does. And then we get introduced to a character called the Moopsie, which is a tiny little, I want to say Pokemon-esque character, who goes, Moopsie! And the humans, and they sort of wander around, Moopsie. And then the Moopsie escapes, and they're running for their lives, and it sucks the bones out of people. So it sucks the bones in, it sort of, I don't know how it sucks the bones out of people, but it does. It's very, very deadly compared to anything else in the menagerie. It escapes, and they have to survive. There's a couple of moments of this where the ensign, Gary, accidentally soils himself in the shuttle when they land because Mariner does it roughly. There's another moment where he says, oh, he probably should change the new pants too. He was actually the funniest part of the episode for me. The Moopsie was like, oh, okay, it's a cute little episode. Kind of reminded me of the T'Ping from Doctor Who. It's like they've tried to do something cute and Pokemon-y. Otherwise, it was a fun episode. They basically get out of it by Mariner punching Ransom in the face. But the growth in this episode for Mariner in particular is Ransom basically says, look, I'm not going to let you self-sabotage yourself the way you've done with other commanders. He actually sort of is there for her. She's sort of taken aback, and she sort of questions, why am I sabotaging myself? Why am I doing this? And Mariner of the past wouldn't have done that. She would have just gone, no, you're trying to get me. But she sort of trusts Ransom in this moment, and she sort of realizes that maybe she's the one holding herself back. And it's a lot of character growth for her. Ransom also just undoubtedly goes, look, I support you. They have a big conversation about, once they get the Moopsie back into its cage, how who released it was probably the thing. They discover it was the humans in the cage, so they just leave them there, fuck off, and leave them for the next person that's there. Boimler is asleep in a tube, and he runs into Rutherford, who's trying to compete with another ensign who's sort of doing all these things before he can get there, and it's a funny little sort of vengeful thing. It's a different take for Rutherford as well. He's not usually seen as that sort of aggressive, but he's basically fighting for a promotion with this other character, and it's quite fun to watch. And then Tendi sort of goes, so he mentions to Tendi that he's been offered promotions, but he didn't want to move because he didn't want to be away from people. And Tendi literally goes, well, why can't you just ask for them? So Tendi goes, oh, can Rutherford get that promotion for taking the hull off the ship a while ago? Sure. And they throws it just before the other guy gets the promotion. And it's a really funny moment where he goes, oh, you just have to ask for things that you deserve. And it's a really sort of funny moment. There's the 3 sort of pronged funny moment stories. I actually enjoyed this episode more than the first episode. It was much more entertaining. You had some good character growth moments. Rutherford gets promoted with them all. At the end, Rutherford and Boimler are in the episode, and Rutherford just turns the window visors down so the red light isn't a problem. And Boimler's just like, what? And then you see he feels like it's home because he bumps his head on the top of the bed like he had in his other bed. It was a really good progression of episodes, and then we get the, I believe it's the Romulan. The Romulan and Klingon are interchangeable in my head, but the ship from the first episode appears again. It destroys another ship. I believe it was the Klingon ship, and we're obviously getting a setup to a bad guy this season. Trying to remember, the ship looks familiar, and I'm trying to remember what ship it is. Anyways, if you liked this video, or you like Star Trek Enterprise, or you like Earth Final Conflict, make sure to come back for 3 videos weekly, generally. Today's just going to be an episode dump, so subscribe, like, and comment, and I'll see you next time.
Moopsie!
Oh, the Moopsie is free!